Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 44 of the Fifth Maple Board Game Podcast. We're a group of diverse friends who offer our takes on the latest and greatest board games to hit our table. I'm your host, Chris, the intellectual introvert, and I'm joined today by the Collector.
Hey, this is David.
And the Deluxified.
Hello, it's Pete.
Today, in our first Mini Meeple episode, we're going to rob a bank. Yep, we are getting the gang back together and bringing the gang to the table, attempting to turn our Texas Hold'em skills into some bank robbing thrills. Now, I mentioned this is our first Mini Meeple episode. Typically, we release an episode every 2 weeks, but there are a lot of games that we play that we never get to talk about on our podcast, either because they're smaller games, they don't match up well against anything, or because there are just so many games and so little time. So as often as we can, we're going to release these Mini Meeple episodes to fill the void between our standard episodes and fill you in on what else is hitting our table. Well, gang, we've been planning this job for months now. Let's review our plans and then get the heist started. The Gang is a 3 to 6 player cooperative deduction game that centers around the Texas Hold'em version of poker. Thematically, you've decided to rob a bank, and how well coordinated you are with the other members of your gang will determine if you end your day with a pile of gold or locked in a jail cell. Each round involves a single hand of Texas Hold'em, but instead of 4 rounds of betting, players instead grab poker chips indicating how strong or weak they believe their hand to be compared to those of their compadres. The chips each have a number of stars on them between 1 and the number of players, so in a 4-player game, there are 4 chips with 1, 2, 3, and 4 stars on them. The more stars, the stronger the hand. Communication is limited, so you need to rely on your deduction skills and the little bit of information you have available from the community cards, your own cards, and how each player's opinions changed as the hand progressed. The 4th round of chip grabbing occurs after the last community card is exposed. Once players settle on their chips, the hands are revealed. If your gang correctly deduced the order of hand strength, you crack open one of the 3 bank vaults. Crack all 3 vaults and you win the game. However, if your gang doesn't get the order exactly correct, you set off an alarm. Set off 3 alarms before cracking all 3 vaults, and it's a lifetime behind bars for the lot of you. As an option, the game also includes 10 challenge cards, which make the game a little harder when things are going smoothly, and 10 specialist cards, which give the gang a slight boost when needed. The Gang was designed by John Cooper and Corey Heath and was first published in 2024 by Cosmos. All right, guys, some people say gambling can lead to a life of crime, and here we are playing Texas Hold'em and robbing a bank. But what is it about the Gang that gets your river flowing?
Well, I like Texas Hold'em, but I don't like gambling. That's one of the things that I work too hard for my money, and I hate giving it away to people. So when I saw this game come out, and I saw it before we actually brought it to the table, and I thought, well, that sounds pretty interesting. I know there was some buzz about it, and I enjoy playing Texas Hold'em. I know when I've been on airplanes and flying, I'll play that on the screen. So, it gives me something to do. This is a nice twist on that game because you are trying to work with your other players and try to really find out how strong your hand is. It does give a little bit different twist than rather just trying to all out win or all out try to push somebody out of the pot or go all in. So I really like that. And I know when we played it, at least for me, I was excited to let's do it again. We won. It seemed like pretty easy. Let's ramp it up a little bit. So for me, it was a really fun game, and I like that mechanism. I mean, you're playing Texas Hold'em, essentially. So I enjoyed it. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I enjoy Texas Hold'em, though I don't play it very much, and I'm not necessarily all that good at it. I'm not a good bluffer, and when I'm playing a game, it's maybe, if you really want to play it super well, it's a lot of statistics, a lot of known strength hands. I don't play it enough to do that well. And I wasn't sure how this game was going to go. And when we played, we had players that were really familiar with Texas Hold'em all the way down to, I'm not sure how familiar Dave was. He was using the reference for hand strength and all that, but he picked it up right away, and it didn't keep him from playing it, which I thought was interesting. I thought, man, if someone isn't real familiar with poker, it's going to be tough. And we had a blast playing this game, right? So there's times when you got to take the poker chip, and we're taking it back from each other, which you're allowed to do. I got the worst hand. You're not allowed to talk, but how violently do you snatch that chip from each other? Or how maybe you're being a little, I'm not going to take it, but I'm going to start to slide it towards me. There's a lot of communicating you can do without communicating, and that I think is some of what this game is about. And I think the more players you have, though, it gets a lot deeper into, it's not just how violently you're doing that, but really reading what happens from round 1 to round 2 to round 3. As those cards are coming out, how did those things change? I don't think we got to see enough of that because of the number of players. I think we would have seen a lot more of that. and a higher player count.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of like the Crew when, somebody said, hey, we can do a co-op, but, it's trick taking. And I was like, oh, yeah, let's go try that out. How does that, it's kind of the same thing when I think of this game. It's like, hey, do you like Texas Hold'em? You want to play it co-op? I'm like, what? That doesn't even make sense to me. And just for the thought process that goes into taking something like that and just flipping it on its head and making it a cooperative, I think is just really cool that people are thinking in these ways, because there's no way in my brain that I'm thinking, oh yeah, let's make Texas Hold'em a co-op game that we can rob a bank together. I mean, it just doesn't even comprehend. But anyways, playing this game, I do think it's a lot of fun playing it in a different way. Instead of trying to always win, you're just trying to compare together. And sometimes those battles are really close. I mean, it might be like you have an ace and a 2 and the other person an ace and a 3. And the three scores for somebody and the 2 scores for somebody else, or something like that crazy. So it's the nuances of taking back and seeing how people react, I think, is really cool. They do it in a way where, we all know communication is only like 10% spoken, 90% kind of everything else. And that's kind of what this game is the heart of. It's reading all those other things. It's because you can't really talk. So I do like that.
Yeah, there was one hand in particular. I was sitting next to Pete. I think I had maybe a 2 and a 7. Pete had a 3 and a 6. I don't know if that's exactly what it was, but we both had just horrible hands in the hole, and there was not a 2 or 3 or 6 or 7 out there on the table. So we both knew we had horrible hands, and it was just a matter of, okay, who is more violently snatching it? And once Pete took it from me twice, I was like, okay, he must have a pretty bad hand. And quite honestly, I was like, well, if we lose, I'm going to let him be the reason, because he took the one from me. But again, it was fun in doing that. I really had a blast playing this.
Yeah, it was really nice about this game too is, it's a quick game. You're playing maybe only 3 hands, and after you play those 3 hands, you could win outright. And if you win, you flip over one of those cards, which kind of makes it a little bit harder. So there's a little balance there, whereas if you're doing too good, they're going to start flipping these cards over to make it a little bit harder. Whereas if you lose that hand, you flip over one of the other cards, which may make it a little bit easier. I think one of them was one person show one of your whole cards to somebody else. So I think you flashed an ace over to me. The game right before that, we were fighting back and forth on, at least then I knew that you had at least a good starting card. So I like that, the way that works, and that it gives that game a little bit of, I don't know if agency is the right word, but adjustment in the gameplay. Because if you do have people who are very good at knowing hand strengths, and, I think after you played this a little bit longer with the same group of people, you get a better feel for what people's actions are and how they value hand strengths, because as you said, that's part of the game too.
All right, anything about the gang that was maybe a bit of a flop for you?
So I had an interesting experience. I actually played this game at a kind of a meetup with people that had never played Texas Hold'em, and there was 6 of us. So I think the more players you add, the harder this game is, kind of just like the Crew. And we played it, and we didn't win a single game. Like, we even got the helper cards. We couldn't win because the bottom 2 people who really didn't know Texas Hold'em at all, it was very hard to, even with the hand strength cards, even trying to explain to them, just for them to evaluate anything. I mean, it was almost like I wouldn't want to play unless you know at least how to play poker at some level, because it was tough teaching them. And then when you play at such a high count, maybe if we only play with like 4, it'd be a lot easier, because maybe, we could explain a little bit more. But when you play with 6, a lot of times the differences between 3 and 4, or even 2 and 3, are, between like the 2 and 4 players is just, it's minute. A lot of times you'll get who has the worst hand, and you'll get who has the highest hand. But sometimes the in-between hands are very difficult.
Yeah, and it's not a question of, well, gee, it seems like the more players, the publisher and the designers, they acknowledge this. There's a note in the rule book on like page 2. The difficulty of this game is determined not only by the cards, but by the number of players. The more there are, the more difficult the game becomes, which becomes obvious as you play it. But
Yes.
that's a real beef that I have. It says, hey, if you're playing a 3-player game, the game may seem too easy. We recommend playing a basic game before you decide if you want to adjust the difficulty level by changing the number of players or trying advanced etc. mode. To me, if you're saying, well, if you want to make it harder, go find more people to play with, I got a big problem with that. If you're going to put in your box, it's a 3 to 6 player game. It ought to play well at 3 players. I can't imagine this game being anything but an automatic win with 3 players. And if you're saying, well, if you want to make it harder, then just go find somebody else, bring them to your table. That is an issue to me. The game should be able to be challenging at whatever player count you have.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is probably a 4-player game, and not playing it at the other counts. I can just see.
I think it's a 5-player game. We played it with 4, and including one person that wasn't real familiar with poker, and it was just we never lost, and we didn't even come close.
Yeah,
and I think it was fun. It wasn't super challenging.
Yeah, at least 4. You
at least 4.
Absolutely.
Three is going to be ridiculously easy.
Yeah.
4 I still felt was too easy. 6 I gotta imagine is ridiculously hard.
See, to me, that's where I'm at. I'd want to play with 6 with people who know how to play Texas Hold'em and have fun. Kind of maybe in between, a game that we're playing that night, but just kind of as a filler to get us into the night, because you can play this game in about 20 minutes. So,
yeah, I think you said the key word there. This to me is a filler game. It's something to play in between while you're waiting. You can be in and out pretty quick on the game. Again, provided you have, you got 4 players, which usually if you have 4 players, you're playing something else. Yeah. So it's kind of a rough spot, I think.
The other beef I have with this game, it comes with challenge cards and specialist cards to make it easier or harder if you're having a hard time. But number 1, there's only 10 of each. And it could have done a lot more than that. To me, it's just, okay, you have an opportunity here, and then you didn't expand it. And number 2, some of the challenge cards I didn't feel like made it super hard, and some of the specialist cards, especially, that were supposed to make it easier. Okay, I showed you an ace, big deal. You had one piece of information. There were some of them that I didn't think they necessarily accomplished what they were trying to do. And I mean, this is poker chips, a standard deck of cards, and then these challenge and specialist cards. You could have given me more specialist and challenger cards.
I agree with that. I think that you run through them really fast, and I don't know if all of these specialists are actually helpful, especially if you've never played the game before. I still think, I don't know. For the 2 players I can't speak for. I mean, we would give them a specialist card. We'd always give them the ability to help us out. And I mean, half the time they're like, I don't know, here's this card I'm going to show you. Like, we're like, show us your highest card. Here's the value, Yeah. So at least give us a chance to try to do it. But yeah.
All right, guys. Well, poker's all about the money. Any noteworthy cost things here? What if I wanted to buy this, David?
Yeah, so right now you can go buy this on Amazon or most major retailers for $14.95 is what it's going for. Some of the game stores are running it for a little bit cheaper, around $12. It's going used for about $10 right now. And I would be surprised if this game holds its value over time. I think it'll probably be like a $5, $8 game pretty soon here. But it's fun, but it's just normal deck of cards and couple poker chips. I think you could probably do it. I just think there's a big loss here when you talk about the specialists and the challenge cards. I think they could have done so much more. And if that would have been higher, I would have probably said, oh, it's going to keep its value. But just as somebody who's bought this game now, I don't know if it'll hold its value because there's not enough of this.
There's just not enough there. Yeah. And I don't see an expansion for this game. They should have just thrown it in there to begin with. Maybe there's probably going to be things showing up on BGG or something. Print your own challenger and specialist cards, which it needs. I don't know if there's much opportunity to bling this up, Pete. I know we kind of caught you off guard with, hey, we're doing the game tonight too.
Well, I think the chips were really nice. I mean, they're not heavy duty poker chips, but they were pretty decent, and they are kind of unique because they're labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or is it up to 5?
It's up to 6-player game.
Yeah, up to 6 players. So you have 6 sets of chips, which is adds to the game. You kind of need that for the game. You could probably play this on your own with a deck of cards, and if you get the rules and try it out, use some dice for markers on how hard the strength is, but it's literally a deck of poker cards and some chips. So as far as bling it out, there wouldn't be much I would do.
Not much to do it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think I hear the coppers coming, so we should probably wrap this up and blow this joint. But before we make our getaway, I need one more piece of information from each of you. We're going to rate these games. We're going to do it on a scale of 1 to 5. A 5 means we are individually giving it our 5th Meeple seal of approval. We are recommending someone to buy this game if we give it a 5. It's up to you guys where you want to give it. Does anybody want to start?
Well, I'm going to give this a 3. And my reason for it is, again, you could play this without buying the game if you download the instructions and, again, make your own little chips or get some poker chips and mark them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think you could play it, without having the extra cards. If you like Texas Hold'em, this might be something that you want to look into, but I can't just recommend somebody going out and buying it because I think we pointed out, I think there's too many shortcomings for me to kind of recommend going out and paying for this when it's something that you could try on your own. Try it. If you like it, that's a decision that you're going to make.
Okay.
David.
I'm actually going to go with a 2 on this one. I think what it does was innovative. Being a very, person who played a lot of Texas Hold'em, tournaments and all this kind of stuff. I like what it does, but it's such short-lived. I don't know if the value is actually there. What I would recommend this game, though, is like around the holidays. I could see myself pulling out this game, playing at Thanksgiving with a bunch of my cousins that we all play Texas Hold'em, and just kind of switching it up for a little bit. I could see that being really fun. I could also see you buying this for somebody who's hard to give a gift to, but they like Texas Hold'em, which is a lot of dads or whatever. This is probably a perfect Father's Day gift. Here, we'll play this, and it's not necessarily competitive. I could see that market, but for standing the test of time, I think they're going to have to either add an expansion, add some stuff to it, or I think it's just going to go by the wayside. But I do think it is a good gift. I just personally, after playing it a couple of times, I feel like I've seen all it has to see. I'd rather just play Texas Hold'em, and so that's why I'm going to give it a 2. Going over to Chris.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give this a 4, despite the beefs that I had with it. I would say take that 4 with an understanding of what I said about player count. Make sure that you think you've got the right player count here. But I do that because it's not a whole lot in the box, but at the same time, I think Cosmos, who published this game, does a good job of pricing appropriately, and it's not overpriced or anything like that. You can get it relatively cheap. And I just go back to when we were playing that, we had a lot of fun.
It was fun,
right?
yeah.
And even though I said, well, I would have liked it if it was a little harder, we had tons of fun. And the amount of fun that we got for the amount of time that we played it for the cost, I think that's worth it. I would not give it a 5, but I would give it a 4. And if you are a Texas Hold'em player or you have the right number of people in your group that matches the level of difficulty, that matches your level of Texas Hold'em knowledge and ability, it could easily be a 5 for a very specific group player count combination. For me, it was a 4 just because I had a blast playing it, and everybody around the table was enjoying it. Yeah. And if someone would have said, "Hey, let's play it now," I would hop on that table and do it.
I think you make a really good point, Chris. I think if you're a Texas Hold'em player and you don't play board games, which I'm not one of those, you probably would love this game because you probably have never seen anything quite like this, and it uses something that you play all the time in a different twist. And I think that person that's out there that doesn't play board games but loves Texas Hold'em, they're gonna love this game.
All right, so Pete gave it a 3, David a 2, I gave it a 4, and that brings us to the end of this first mini episode of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our discussion on The Gang, and if you'd like to get in touch, just email us at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com or reach out to us on social media. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, may all of your getaways be clean ones. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Hasta luego.